So let us take these cases. These are all very nuanced cases. Life is never so simple and black and white and straightforward. And the scriptures do not give us they do not give us solutions for every single problem. They give us general principles which we must use with our intelligence in different situations. So let's take this particular case. Displeasing yet wholesome speech. Apriyasya cha pathyasya. Priya means pleasing. Apriyasya means of that which is displeasing. Pathya. Pathya means that which is wholesome. It also salubrious, salutary. It also indicates where something may not seem to be pleasing now, but it yields a beneficial result. So that is pathya. So a doctor will prescribe a diet for you in your disease condition, which may not be very pleasing to you. You like to eat this and you like to eat that, and the doctor says, don't eat this, don't eat that. And he says, eat this, and you don't like that, but you have to eat it. That's called pathya. It's pathya because in some ways it's displeasing to you, to your tongue, but ultimately it's very beneficial. That's called pathya. So apriya, at the same time it is pathya. So it is beneficial. So now we're going to talk for some time about that type of speech which is displeasing, which may agitate the person we are speaking to, but it is pathya, it is wholesome, it is ultimately beneficial, hitam. So let's discuss some cases like this, and I'll share with you a couple of examples from the Mahabharata and the Ramayana to illustrate these points. This is a statement of Maricha to Ravana from the Valmiki Ramayana. Sulabha Purushaha Rajan Satatam Priyavadinaha Apriyasya cha Pathyasya Vakta Shrota cha Durlabha. So you see the Apriyasya cha Pathyasya. So these three words you will see in many other verses in Sanskrit literature. So therefore I took out that particular phrase. So whenever someone speaks like that, in short, you say, instead of saying the whole verse, you just say, apriyasya cha pathyasya. So the next time somebody says like that, speaks in that harsh way, because it's necessary and the person is authorized to do it, then we know, we summarize that by saying, apriyasya cha pathyasya. Is that proverb in brief? So the translation is as follows. O king, people speaking not pleasing, pleasingly. People speaking pleasingly are always easy to find. However, it is more rare, not more, it is rare, not more rare, it is just rare. It is rare to find people who speak and listen to words which are displeasing yet wholesome. So just make those two little changes there. Instead of pleasing, it is pleasingly, and there is no more there. You should cut out the more. Sulabha. Sulabha means easy. Purusha, person. Rajan, O king. Satatam, always. Priya, pleasing. Vadina, speaker, to speak. To find people who speak pleasingly, whether truthfully or untruthfully, but there are many people who speak in a pleasing way. But to find someone who will be willing to speak displeasingly because it is for the other person's welfare is very rare. And it is also rare to find a person who will be willing to listen to such speech. Speaking, yes, we are all very eager to speak. Yeah? We all like to give advice to everybody because after all it's free. It doesn't cost anything. for us to give advice to somebody else. But if we are at the receiving end of the advice, then many times we don't like it. We are uncomfortable. Why is he or she telling me this? So this is what Maricha tells Ravana. And I'll give you a bit of the background. How many of you have heard of Maricha? Many of you, yes. He was a demon. When Lord Ramachandra was only a young boy, he had not even attained adulthood. He was about 16 years of age. The sage Vishwamitra came to King Dasharath and asked him for a boon, not a boon, he asked him for something to fulfill. He wanted something in charity. So Dasharath Maharaj was ever eager to serve the sages and the brahmanas, but he was not prepared for what was to come. And Vishwamitra said, please hand me over your two sons, Ram and Lakshman, for just a short period of time. There are some very dangerous asuras who are causing havoc in Siddhashram, the place where I reside, and they're constantly harassing us. They defile our sacrificial arenas. They even sometimes kill some of the ascetics living there in the forest. So we need Ram and Lakshman to come and kill those asuras. So when Dasharath heard this was like a bolt from the blue, as if a thunderbolt had struck him. And he said, my dear sage, Ram is only a boy. He is not even a grown-up man yet. He is not even 16. I will come personally with you, and I'll bring my army with you, and we will vanquish these demons. But Vishwamitra was adamant. And it came to a point when Vasishtha Muni had to actually guide Dasharath Maharaj to say, please accept his request, don't worry. Vishwamitra Muni is perfectly capable of protecting himself and killing those demons, but because now he's a Brahmana, a sage, it's not proper that he does it. It's the job of the Kshatriyas. And there is some good, definitely, that will come out of this. So Ram and Lakshman go there, and then they come across these demons who come and harass the sages, Tadaka, and Ram kills this lady, Tadaka, demoness. And then there's Maricha, an associate. Subahu also his associate. And so Ram subdues them. And as far as Marich is concerned, he shoots an arrow at him that flings Maricha hundreds of miles away from that place, and he lands in the ocean or something, far away. It was a very heavy blow. Somehow or the other, Marich survives. And as Marich will inform Ravana in the course of this conversation, even later, Maricha goes in disguise as an animal into the forest when Ram is in exile. And again Ram does a similar thing, but spares his life. So now Marich understands very well how powerful Lord Ram is. So now, after Shurpanakha has been defiled, and she goes howling in pain and anger, being scorned by Lakshman and Ram, she goes and taunts her brother Ravana. And then he incites the lust in him about Sita. And then Ravana agrees to go and kidnap Sita. At the behest of Shurpanakha. Now, Ravana is thinking about a plan of how to be able to kidnap Sita without having to fight with Ram and Lakshman. So he thinks of Marich, who has ever since is now a retired Asura. So he's no longer involved in Asuric activities anymore. He's taken Vanaprastha from his demoniac activities. And now he's living in the forest performing austerities. So Ravana seeks him out. And Maricha is surprised to see Ravana, at the same time afraid. And he says, Ravana, what can I do for you? And Ravana explains the thing. He said, I want you to disguise yourself as a golden deer and dance very pleasingly in front of Sita. So she will be enchanted and she will ask Ram to fetch you for her. And you will draw Ram deep into the forest. And then Lakshman will go after him when he doesn't return. And then I will abduct Sita. This is his plan. When Marich hears this, he says, Ram, who is that enemy of yours posing as a friend who has planted this most stupid idea in your mind? This is the last thing you should do. Do you not know the valor and the glories of Ram? And then Maricha recounts his own experiences with Ram. He says, I have learned by experience. Don't think he's just a human. So you will only do so at your peril. You will not only have yourself killed, but your whole dynasty, your whole kingdom will be destroyed. So Maricha is speaking this to Ravana. Ravana certainly doesn't like to hear that. For Ravana, it is extremely disturbing. It is displeasing. But Maricha doesn't hesitate to speak the truth. Because he is seeking Ravana's welfare. Saying, Ravana, you will be destroyed if you don't listen to me. Your whole kingdom will be destroyed. That is when he speaks this verse. So, O king, he says, if you want people who will just simply encourage you in whatever you want to do, there won't be any shortage of people like that. But to find people who will have the courage to stand up to you and say that which may be displeasing but which is actually for your welfare will be very, very rare. Not only is it rare to find people who speak like this, but it's even rarer to find people who would be willing to hear this. And here is an example. Marich has the courage to speak, but Ravana doesn't have the willingness to hear it. He gets very offended. And he says, if you don't agree, I will kill you. Then Marich is left with what's called a Hobson's choice. No choice at all, actually. But then he thinks, yes, I have a choice. The choice is, I either get killed by Lord Ram or I get killed by Ravana. I have to die in either case. Because even if I take on the form of that golden deer, Ram is going to kill me. So better I die at the hands of Lord Ram. My life will become successful. So he agrees to Ravana's proposal for this reason. And also, of course, it is part of Lord Ramachandra's plan, the larger plan, because ultimately Ravana has to be killed. And Ravana's offenses have to rise and rise and rise to such a level where the offenses and the sins themselves become a cause of the destruction of that person. So whenever there are evil people, even though those who are responsible for checking evil must do their job, still we should know that ultimately people who are very, very offensive, who are evil, will meet their doom under the weight of their own sinful activities. So we need not go out and unnecessarily speak harsh words to everybody and anybody, even when we see a mistake. So this is an important statement that we find. And exactly the same verse, the same Sanskrit, all the 4 lines of the verse are same, appear in the Mahabharata. When Vidura is speaking to Dhritarashtra. And he says exactly the same thing. Because Dhritarashtra doesn't like to hear what is truth and what is actually beneficial for him. Because of being very attached to his son, that moha, that illusory attachment, he is going along with his evil son Duryodhana. And therefore he participates in that and implicates himself. Actually, the whole problem in the whole Mahabharata issue is Dhritarashtra, not Duryodhana. If Dhritarashtra had heard the advice of Vidura, of Bhishma, of Sanjaya, of Vyasa, then this would not have happened. But as Maricha has said, and as Vidura himself will say, because it's the same verse, one who listens to such salutary advice is very rare. Nobody likes to be told anything that is displeasing to hear. Because we have a conception of what we think is right and what we want to do. And when somebody comes and tells us that this is what you should do, if it doesn't fit in with our ideas, we become very distressed and we become annoyed. Or we simply just reject the idea. So Dhritarashtra also had been told a similar thing by Vidura. Because time and again, Vidura, out of love for his older brother Dhritarashtra, used to give him good advice. And Dhritarashtra respected Vidura very much because Vidura was very wise. He was very learned. There is a whole passage of the Mahabharata at different parts which is called Vidur Niti. The morality and the sayings, the aphorisms and the proverbs and the teachings of Vidur. Just like you have Chanakya Niti and so on. Vidura's words of wisdom are also very profound. So on numerous occasions we find in the Mahabharata, Vidura tries to advise Dhritarashtra. Sometimes he speaks harshly. Even to Duryodhana he spoke very harshly. But Duryodhana could not take it. So he reacted and spoke and actually banished Vidura from the kingdom. In the Ramayana we see another instance where Vibhishan was trying to correct Ravana. When Lord Ram and the army was on the other side of the ocean, and all they had to do was cross that stretch of the ocean and they would arrive at Lanka. And Hanuman had already created havoc in Lanka. He had alone jumped over the sea and he had wreaked havoc. He had been arrested, but still he escaped, set Lanka on fire and went back. And Ravana was now alarmed. He called an assembly and Vibhishana, in front of everybody, admonished him. He actually offered him the most salutary advice. Many of his generals were encouraging him. Yes, you are so powerful, don't worry. Who is this Lord Ram? What is his dharma, adharma? You are a Kshatriya, you create your dharma. You don't worry about this, we are with you, you're doing the right thing. So they encouraged him in his wrongdoing. And this was very pleasing for Ravana to hear such speech. So when you have such people around you who are like your friends, who think they're your friends, and you think they're your friends, and they give you advice that you like to hear because your mind finds it very comforting, know that this is danger zone. We should have at least somebody in our life who will tell us the truth, who will tell us what is good for us without considering whether we will be pleased by it or not. So Vibhishana was not like those other generals. Kumbhakarna, even he admonished Ravana. He said, when you wanted to go and kidnap Sita, you didn't ask me. You didn't ask anybody. And now when the trouble comes, now you've come to me saying, come on, help me. You've done a very foolish thing. But anyway, you're my brother. Since you're my brother, don't worry, I'm with you. So he went along with Ravana. But Vibhishan was not like that. Vibhishan stood his ground. He said, don't trust these people who are talking like your friends, but they're actually your enemies, in effect. You think I'm your enemy, but I'm speaking for your welfare. It is not too late, even now. Return Sita Devi to Lord Ram with honor and dignity. And because Ram is so magnanimous, he will forgive you, even now. It's not too late. But Ravana was infuriated. And he said, if you were not my brother, I would have killed you today, at this very moment. Dangerous are those who claim to be brothers and friends, but actually who act against one's interests. So Ravana's thinking was topsy-turvy. This is what the mode of ignorance does. It inverts reality for you. So eventually he banished Vibhishan, who then went to Lord Ramachandra and took shelter. So these are some instances of how pleasing or displeasing words, disturbing words are spoken, but with a good intention to create benefit for the other person. They're words of truth. Let's take another example, again of Vidura to Dhritarashtra from the Udyoga Parva. As a sequel to that verse, the previous verse that I just mentioned, immediately the next verse, Vidura says, that man who, without regarding what is agreeable or disagreeable to his master, but keeping virtue or dharma alone in view, says what is displeasing but wholesome, truly adds to the strength of the king. He is warning Dhritarashtra, don't simply become attached to people who tell you what you want to hear. In effect, what he's telling Dhritarashtra is, you should have people telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. There's a difference between what we want to hear and what we need to hear. What we want to hear is what our mind says. Our crazy mind. But what we need to hear is that which is good for our soul, which is good from the dharmic point of view. So these are Vidura's instructions to Dhritarashtra. Very, very illuminating. So we should think about this. And there's one more, however, when we go on. There's another verse that we'll come to from Manusmriti, which Srila Prabhupada quoted many times. And he has given different comments on this verse. And this verse, or these two verses actually, speak about how truth should be spoken pleasingly and truth that is not pleasing should not be spoken. So, Prabhupada in many places said that no, sometimes you have to speak the truth even if it is displeasing. And at other times, he has given a more nuanced understanding of this. So we'll start by listening to this verse. It's a famous one. Very famous verse. So maybe you can chant with me or after me. This is from the Manusmriti. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat. Ma bruyat satyam apriyam. Ma bruyat satyam apriyam. Priyam charnanritam bruyat. Priyam charnanritam bruyat. Esha dharma sanatanaha. Esha dharma sanatanaha. Speak truth in such a way that it is pleasing to others. Never speak truth which is unpleasant to others. Never speak untruth which might be pleasant. That is the path of eternal morality. In other words, do not speak a bitter truth, do not speak a sweet lie. That's the sum and substance of this verse. Satyam bruyat. Speak, that bruyat means speak. Satyam bruyat means speak the truth. Priyam bruyat, but say it pleasingly. But what if that truth is not pleasing? Ma bruyat. Don't speak it. Satyam apriyam. If that satya, if that truth is unpleasing, displeasing, don't speak it. Priyam cha na anritam bruyat. If there's something that is false, even if it is pleasing, don't say it. Na bruyat. So this is more or less a moral instruction, more or less a matter of social convention. Actually, Prabhupada is very interesting for us to see how Prabhupada has understood this. And I'll cite a few examples from how Prabhupada speaks about this. The first part is going to be when Prabhupada says, no, even if it is displeasing, you must speak the truth. So we'll talk about a few of those instructions now. And afterwards, we'll speak about those instructions where he says, he softens. At different times, in different circumstances, he has spoken differently. So let's see. In one instance, Srila Prabhupada says, this is in a college lecture in Seattle in 1968, October. He says it is a social convention that if you want to speak the truth, you speak it palatably, flattering. Do not speak unpalatable truth. He is referring to this verse. Yes, exactly this verse that we have up on the board. Then he continues, but we are not meant for that purpose, social convention. We are preachers, servants of God. We must speak real truth. You may like it or you may not like it. That a godless civilization cannot be happy in any stage. Therefore, we have started this Krishna consciousness movement to awaken the godless civilization and tell people that you love God. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying, this Satyam Bruyat Priyam Bruyat Ma Bruyat Satyam Priyam is a social convention. It's a moral instruction, more or less on the ethical and material plane. But for us, as devotees of Krishna, involved in spreading Krishna consciousness and spiritual knowledge, this doesn't apply to us. As sadhus, as devotees, we should speak the truth. The world doesn't like to hear that it is a godless civilization. And without bringing Krishna in the center, there is no hope in this world. They don't like to hear all these things. But because we are devotees, we have to speak this. Then in another letter to Sumati Morarji in 1976, he also says something similar. You know Sumati Morarji? Yeah. Who was she? She was the one who gave a ticket on the Jaladuta ship for Srila Prabhupada in 1965 to go from Calcutta to America. She gave him a free complimentary ticket. She did great service. And Prabhupada continued to correspond with her. And she was already very faithful, but she was from the Vallabha Sampradaya. She had many exchanges of philosophy and so on. She tried to dissuade Prabhupada from going to America, saying, Swamiji, you are such an elderly person. How will you be able to bear the rigors of the travel and the cold climate over there? But Prabhupada was adamant. He said, no, I have to go to fulfill the order of my Guru Maharaj. So in this letter to her, he says, the scriptures advise, Satyam Bruyat, Priyam Bruyat. In the material world, only palatable truth should be spoken. Unpalatable truth should be avoided. Devotees always humbly offer respect to everyone. But when there is a discussion on a point of Shastra, they do not observe the usual etiquette. They speak only Satyam, although it may not necessarily be Priyam. Because there was some issue that Sumati Morarji had with some philosophical point and some comments that were made in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Vallabhacharya. And she was a follower of Vallabhacharya. There was some fine point. So she was not so happy with it. So she wrote to Prabhupada saying, Swamiji, why have you written like this? Why do you have this in your teaching? Then Prabhupada wrote a long letter explaining everything. And he also wrote this. And then later, yes, there's also Bhagavad Gita purport, where Prabhupada says, actually this is chapter 10, verse 4. Satyam, truthfulness, means that facts should be presented as they are, for the benefit of others. Facts should not be misrepresented. According to social conventions, it is said that one can speak the truth only when it is palatable to others. So again, he's speaking about this verse. But that is not truthfulness. The truth should be spoken in a straightforward way, so that others will understand what the facts actually are. If a man is a thief, and if people are warned that he is a thief, that is truth. Although sometimes the truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are for the benefit of others. That is the definition of truth. So Prabhupada is emphasizing not just truth, but because it's for the benefit of others. If you remember in our discussion, we mentioned of those 4 essential points, the beneficial aspect, hitam, is the most important. When he was giving a lecture in Indore, in India, in 1970, he was explaining how people want to hear something from Swamis that is in line with their own thinking. People come to say, Swamiji, what about this? And if the Swamiji says something that they already believe, it's very nice. He's a very nice Swami. But if the Swami says something that is opposed to what they believe in, then they say, oh, why is Swami speaking like this? So Prabhupada had much experience like this. So then, he says, Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat ma bruyat satyam apriyam. You tell the truth, but it must be palatable. If you say truth that is unpalatable, then you will create enemies. But what can I do? But how can I do so in distributing spiritual knowledge? In other words, this principle of speaking the truth always in a palatable manner and never saying it in an unpalatable or speak it if it's unpalatable to others cannot be maintained if one is a Krishna conscious preacher. Now, how we say it, etc., these are points Prabhupada will come to later. So we are just presenting one part of it. How Prabhupada is emphasizing the pathyasya over the priyasya. The benefit vis-a-vis the pleasantness. That it is more important that we speak beneficial truth than to speak things which are pleasing. And now, Srila Prabhupada is giving slowly the other side in other quotes. You see, many times people quote Prabhupada, no? They say Prabhupada said this. But in different circumstances, Prabhupada said different things. We must have a complete picture. Otherwise, we may just pick and choose, cherry pick whatever quotes we want and to support what we think is right. You've heard the English proverb, different strokes for different folks. That means different people have different mentalities, right? So we can modify that slightly by saying different shlokas for different folks. So whatever I want to say, I pick up a shloka that is suitable for me to make my point. And then you will pick up something, what you're saying is contrary to what I'm saying. So you will pick up a shloka from somewhere that suits what you want to say, and then we will quarrel. So So similarly with Prabhupada's quotes, we pick up one quote from Prabhupada like this that says one thing, somebody else picks up another quote, and then they'll say, no, I'm right. No, see, he says here. So we have to see all that Prabhupada says on a particular subject, see the context in which he says it. So even though thus far from what we have heard, Srila Prabhupada has been very clear that even if the truth is displeasing, it must be spoken because it is ultimately beneficial. Now he's presenting slightly nuanced versions of that. In a letter, one devotee had asked Prabhupada, should the devotee always speak the truth in all circumstances? Important question. Yes? So Prabhupada's answer, yes. How could Prabhupada say no? Isn't it? So Prabhupada's reply, yes, one should always speak the truth. But what? A qualified devotee will be able to speak the truth that is always palatable to everyone, so that it will sound pleasing even to his enemy. That is the art of speaking truth. It is certainly so that we must speak the truth to all people. But how you say it, that is another thing. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, he says. When you become yourself more experienced in Krishna consciousness by preaching work, and if you are sincere and serious to make progress in spiritual understanding, you need not worry, because the truth will always be spoken by you in the proper manner. Krishna will give you the intelligence. Simply try to please